Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome to the Weekend Wellness Hour show. I am very excited and very grateful at this point in time that my good friend Andre Paradis is joining us today. We had a bit of an emergency with our previous guest, and Andre called him up an hour ago. He stepped in and he said, I would love to come talk to you. And I was already planning to interview him anyway, because he has tons of valuable information on how to develop a long-term loving relationship with your partner. He has been in my life for the past several years as part of an inner circle, Kyle Wilson's inner circle. I love hearing him talk. He often has very, a little bit more ideas that are a little bit go against the norm for nowadays. And so it's great to have this discussion because I have seen him help many people develop relationships, even my good friend Jeanette Ortega, who recently married her husband. So thank you, Andre, for joining us today.
Thank you, Amy. It's such an honor. So fun. Last minute, all over it.
You are awesome. And I would love to dive into your background a little bit because you have a very unique background. And I'm not going to spoil it. I want you to share it because it is fascinating what you've done with your life.
Okay, you want to start where? It's a long story. It's a book.
Why don't you start with a little bit of kind of your dancing career that led you to where you are now and hit the highlights, because it's not every day that people get to dance with some of the legends that you have.
Fair enough. So it's interesting. So in a nutshell, I discovered when I was a teenager, I went to a private high school, and I because it was private high school, the PE program was quite extensive, fancy, and a young girl asked me to be her dance partner because she wanted to take ballroom classes for PE, and you had to sign as a couple. Now you have to understand, I was a geek, I was a dork, I was a kid who didn't fit anywhere, I was a loner, I was like the outside of everything kind of thing. So just the fact that she knew I was alive kind of blew my mind, and I was a solo, kind of isolated guy. So my sport was swimming, and really my favorite sport was sitting at the bottom of the pool. Not even swimming, just sitting at the bottom, being in my own world, like isolated and like almost in the womb kind of thing. And that just soothed my soul because I was challenged childhood. So when she says, can you sign up with me? Because I need and I'm like, oh, so first I don't have to change for PE because this is Canada and you have to change it. It's cold. Even if the pool's indoors is anyway. So that was my first thing. I don't have to change. The second, I looked at her. I'm like, this sweet little thing. I get to hold her in my arms. Duh. Anyway, so a week later, first class. I'm almost 16 years old. I'm 15, almost 16 years old. And this is the funny thing is, as soon as this teacher started teaching, whatever he did, I remember I always kept him on my right. I just look at it, whatever he did, I could just do it, like instantaneously copy it.
Wow.
Which was really crazy because I was again isolated and alone and had no talent that I knew of, and this was like just there. So that was like, oh, so from geek to star, because within a few months I ended up assisting the teacher because I was so fast he'd get frustrated with me, and I ended up assisting him in class because the guys didn't catch up, and so then all the girls want to dance with me, and then we started doing like shows in schools and like all the holiday shows, like we were dance geek to star. Interesting. So fast forward that gift, I took it to Los Angeles. I became a commercial jazz dancer. I trained my butt off constantly for free. I got scholarship for scholarship. People saw something in me that I didn't know that I had. And Michael Jackson, Prince, Paul Abdul, Julio Iglesias. I traveled the world for 15 years, teaching, performing, coming back to Los Angeles. When you come back from the road with Michael Jackson, back into your dance class, the class is full.
Yeah.
So the machine of that. So I did that for 15 years. Met my wife in one of my classes. Oops.
Oops, yeah,
Hello.
sorry.
Well, like, oops, a teacher taking advantage. Well, no, she was right there. It was beautiful. And, in 2 seconds, I knew this was my wife. And we continued traveling because she's a ballerina. She's traveled a lot. And a few years later, we decided to start a family. And then I got myself grounded in Los Angeles by opening a car business because I didn't want to be the dad who was not going to be present. So grounding myself by opening a car business. I'm a car guy. I come from family of car guys. We love cars. We love classic cars. We restore cars. So that was sort of a double dip in the things that I love, but kept me grounded in Los Angeles. Next thing you know, the business is flying, allowed me to raise my kids, be present at all the meets, all the parades, all the Halloween, you name it. We were there, both of us, right? All the recitals, because the shop was 6 minutes from my house and the school was 2 blocks away. So I got to be daddy to my children the way I wanted to be and build a life and business. And but I was always a curious guy. I was the guy who's always looking for information. I was curious about life, the human condition, watching people, understanding people, like all that. And that took me to personal development since I was 23 years old, constantly. And 1 year, 2006, I'm in San Jose, California, Northern California, in a business workshop because I took the business as far as I could take it with my knowledge. So I was looking for, that's my brain. On the way back, flying from San Jose, I met this couple in the workshop who were sitting in the same row, which I thought was random, not so much looking back. And then the girl says to me, "What do you do next weekend?" And I go, "Oh, I'm free. I don't work on the weekend." She goes, "Do you want to come to the workshop? It's on me." I'm like, "Of course," right? Because workshops also can be very expensive. She's inviting me. I'm curious. And then I go, "Wait, what is the workshop?" Because I said yes before I even knew what it was.
Right.
It's like, "Oh, it's called Understanding Women." My reaction exactly, right? Now, because I'm an artist, because I look like this, because I was sensitive as a person, as an artist, I never did the crazy stuff my friends did with their girlfriends, like the yelling match, the screaming, they get out. Like I never did this. I always attracted sweet women like my wife. You know my wife very well, right? That was always the type of women I've attracted. So what are you going to teach me? Well, turns out that at the end of that workshop, my brain was all over the walls, and I realized I knew nothing about women. More dangerous, I knew nothing about my wife. At that time, we have a toddler and a brand new baby. We're not in trouble. I'm not looking for this information. I'm just, tripped over this, but it freaked me out because I realized it's what I didn't know that was dangerous. The things that she assumes by my action or lack of action, or words or lack of words, understanding women make meanings out of stuff they don't understand. That's super dangerous. All my siblings are divorced and married 2-3 times. I have my baby. I'm not going to ruin this, not knowing, right? So that's my brain. So then I dove into that company, took all their curriculum. A minute later, I was a workshop leader for them because I'm a teacher at heart, right? So, and that was the beginning of my machine. And then I continue with, that didn't work out with this company, but then I studied with John Gray, Mars and Venus, Shanti Felhan in the South, Love and Respect, Dr. Esther Perel in New York City. Now she's famous. Nobody knew her at the time.
Yeah, she is.
Right. And then Dr. Pat Allen in Los Angeles, which is Family Child, FMA, Family Child. What's the other word? Family Child, blank, whatever. But Family Child relationship, right? So so I trained with her for 3.5 years, almost privately. Like 5 of us in the room with her for 3.5 years. So I'm trained by a therapist, but not a therapist, but the knowledge, the cocktail with these masters that I trained with, sort of without any arrogance, I'm going to say, I think I'm untouchable. I could explain this whole dynamic with men and women, relationships, business relationships, familial relationships, parent-child, in a very clean and fantastically simple way. Oh, sorry, that was long.
No, that was good. And I can imagine with studying with all these greats, and you have a lot of experience now working with people because you've built your own coaching program. So can we dive into just broadly, and then we'll go more narrow, of how to build a healthy, fulfilling, love relationship that lasts a long time? Because that's kind of something that's almost unique nowadays when you hear someone has a loving relationship that has lasted 10, 20, 30 years.
Right?
That's unique.
Now it's interesting because again, this is the part where I salivate trying to explain this stuff and not explaining it, and people kind of, oh, right?
Yeah.
Because we kind of did away with all the stuff that was what we call like classical, women being virtuous, men going to work hard, men want to take care of their family, their wives, their children, and being proud of that, right? And women wanting and joyfully limited choices. I understand back then, but like the idea of like raising children was the most fulfilling thing for most women, though not all women. There's no such thing as all, right? And then all men want to work hard for their family, but typically there's this 80-20 formula that's classic. But we did away with all this, empower women so everybody gets to work, which is great, except it creates a reaction, in the realm dynamic, in the realm of, so when we soften men or tell them they're toxic and dangerous and women can't trust them, you make half the planet, the enemy. How's that going to work? So give the statistics. Women in our culture today, the past 15 years especially, are the most unhappy that they've been in the history of mankind. The statistics.
Wow.
And how's that possible with all the choices? The liberation is because most of us, men and women the same, do not feel happy or successful when they can attain love dynamics, relationships. So men are the same. Men are suffering. Men are lonely. Men don't understand. Men are just like, throw their hands up like, what the hell?
Yeah.
And women are like, why does somebody like me? Why does somebody love me? Why does somebody take care of me? How come I have everything? How come I have no maintenance? Look, I have everything. Masculine. How come nobody wants to be with me? Well, you're too masculine, and it's not your fault. It's really, really a big cultural push that's been going on since the 60s, 70s, where now it's very hard. And I'm saying this because I want people to get themselves off the hook about not knowing. It's very hard to push back against the tidal wave of a culture. The belief system that's been thrown at us that women should be more like men to be valuable, strong, independent, and powerful. That's masculine. And then men should be sweet, sensitive, and vulnerable to be better men. That in itself, sure, to some degree, but in love dynamic, that kind of equality in being destroy all possibility of intimacy. And this is why people are struggling, because they don't know why. Because on paper, it sounds good. In fact, it doesn't work at all. This is my job, right? Since 2009, this doesn't work at all. I'm constantly dismantling that belief system, but it's counterintuitive. Oof.
Yeah, and that is, so when you're saying that there's not equality, it doesn't mean that one person or one gender is inferior to the other.
No.
It's more that each has its own separate roles. Is that right?
Beyond roles, because people hate that too, right? We put that in a culture as well, that that's so stereotypical. That doesn't work. Man on spot. And guys, in my world, there's 3 types of men. There's not men, having a penis doesn't mean you have a man in front of you. There's temperament and the way they were raised and what they value. So in my world, there's 3. There's man, there's guys, and there's boys. Now, boys will say shit like, excuse my French, they'll say stuff like, how come it's always up to me to pay? Why can't she call me more? How come I'm always have to do the work? How come, why is it like, and they want there's, right? They're feminized to a point where they resent, and I try to tell them to man up. They freak right out. Because that's toxic, because stereotypes don't. No, there is such a thing as stereotypes. I'm sorry, there are, just like there is feminine, masculine, right? Like there's such a thing as girl movie and guys movies, right? Like chick flicks and cowboy movies, girl car, men car. Sorry, stereotypes exist because they exist. Like it or not, they exist, right? So men and women, masculine and feminine, have traits. They're specific, but they're meant to fit. They're complementary. What women brings to a relationship with a man is the part that he doesn't do well naturally, and vice versa. So it's the complementary that's appropriate, not equality.
Right. So, so you mentioned boys. So boys are kind of, a little bit whiny. Okay. Then
a lot whiny.
Okay. And then what's guys and what's man? What's the difference?
Yeah. So men are men, which is a man, when you're in the presence of a man as a woman, this because you meet a man, typically you go, oh, right? Like they make you a little nervous because there's something solid and strong about them that you can't mess with. They know who they are, and if you say the wrong word, they'll put you in your place, right? And energetically, this. They're a little like woo, right?
Yeah.
Those also the guys who build their lives, go after their character, build their confidence, build their career, build something in the world, something big that's difficult to attain. They discipline themselves, they go for it. And the reward for them is with those, the rewards of building something important, a passion, a mission, they want to share that with a woman and their children, and they pride themselves in taking care of all of that and everybody in their realm. And those are men, like that's classic men. They love to be the heroes and the producers and the provider to keep everybody in their space comfortable, fed. They love it. They don't resent it. Boys are like, why do I have to pay? How come I have to call you? How come you don't call me? Right? See the difference?
Yeah.
So that's a feminized man, right? So guys are in the middle in our culture. Guys in the middle. So they're masculine enough to have a job and have a little job and have a little shitty car and have a, they don't live in the basement of mother's house. So they have an apartment with 2-3 roommates. That's fine, right? They're manly enough to be handling their lives on a logistical level. They don't live large because they need women in order to step up to living large. But they've been culturally shamed out of being masculine, so they're the ones who give their powers away, because they don't want to be toxic, so they ask women like, so what do you want to go for dinner, like, so, like, what do you want to do, like, so you think we should get together this weekend? So I'm out Thursday night, do we, like, they put it all on a woman because they don't want to be toxic. They're raised that way. However, as a woman, how do you like a guy saying, where do you want to go for dinner? Right? Women hate it because, like, now it's on her. So it's more stuff for you to handle. It's more, and I say this to men, make the plan, because if you put her in charge of the plan, you're not gonna have a woman hanging on your arm. You're gonna have a man, So if you want to be the man, if you want a girl to be comfortable and actually chill out with you, just make the damn plan. Handle your shit. Excuse my French, but that's like, you know what I mean? So the guys in the middle, like they're men enough, but they don't. When it comes to women, they completely flatten out. A boy was actually raised that being sweet and sensitive is the way to go. So that's why when you say man up, they get all offended. And so they do all kinds of things where, so get this, there's often there's variations of this, but it's often boys are created when they have no daddy role models. No role models. So single motherhood is terrible for boys that way, because she will raise him to be sweet and sensitive, like mothers want their sons to be. There's no calibration of in somewhere in the middle, right? Because we all have to find the sweet spots for ourselves. But a boy acting like a girl does not make a man who's very productive or that any woman can respect. But so that's where that comes undone. The boys don't want to work. The boys want women to take care of them. Right? And they assume that you're supposed to, and they get offended if you don't.
Yeah. So if, obviously there's a big shift in our culture where families are split. And so mothers are often raising kids alone. So what would you suggest if a woman has a boy and she's raising him, just try to find as many male role models?
You got it. It's not that hard, right? But like typically those boys have a hard time, socially, sometimes a lot, like me. So what happens is they're shy, they're uncomfortable, they kind of more loners. This is, but part of it is they don't have a role model, masculine role model to role model after. So if you could put him in any kind of sports, and it could be checkers, it doesn't matter, where there's a mentor male who's going to talk to them, guide them as a team. They could be part of a team. Man, instinctively, in our DNA, we need teams. We need to be part of something with a bunch of guys for us to feel like we have a part in life, in world, and bring the piece that we bring to the team. It's essential. So you could be a single mom, that happens, but stop cuddling or coddling your son. But get this is psychology 101. You have to stop protecting him by the age of 10. In order for him to start managing himself and his life, so he could step into being a grown man. If you keep making life comfortable for him and you keep him in the basement playing video games till he's 27, by the age of 13, he's decided the women are here to kiss his butt and serve him. And this is why you make a boy. So it's a terrible thing, because they've been emasculated. No, they've been castrated before they even got their own balls. And that is an injury that's permanent. And that's how you see that everywhere, by the way, out there now. Men who don't know who they are. So they lean on women to pay and, have fun with, and they don't want to commit. They can't commit. They have nothing to provide. They don't want to pay for you. They don't want to take care of you. They don't want the responsibility. They just want to play. So I say, don't give your body, your money, your time, or your energy to these guys, because they'll just take it and leave you.
Yeah.
Let them anyway.
Which no, makes sense. And I want to kind of dive into a little bit more. You were
Yeah.
talking about masculine and feminine.
Mhm.
Can you go basic and how to differentiate that from like masculinity and feminism? Like, can you kind of go through what's the difference in all of these topics and how does this play a role in building a relationship?
Well, feminism started out being, a movement to give women choices. Because back in the days, right, for millennia, it was like, women were mothers and wives, and men went to work. Now, it's not sexy because there's no options on both sides, by the way. So it's not only women that suffered; men had no choice. There was no staying behind. There was no taking care of the kids. That was not in the card. So as we dismantle that limited type options, feminism kicked in, because seemingly men had more options, maybe, but women had less options. So then we put women, with the idea of options feminism. That's a good idea. Like, started out, like having be able to have choices, except we went too far, because instead of choices, now it's become, and you're gonna, people get triggered, but okay, that's my work. Right now, it's not a helping women have choices and be strong, independent, and powerful. You have all that. You've proven all that. You can do anything you want. No one's going to stop you. It's culturally, it's in place. But now it's more of a man hating movement. So again, if you're going to have the planet the enemy, how in the hell is this going to work? And this is where the pendulum went too far, right?
Okay.
So this is sort of feminism 3.0, they called it, and it's now actually toxic to culture, because it's gone too far. We're fighting against some things that, in my judgment, again, people have all kinds of reaction to this, is now inappropriate. This is not how you create a culture with healthy family, healthy relationships that create healthy children who actually then can grow up and create other healthy healthy relationships with other people and create other. So when relationships and with marriage, family falls apart, culture falls apart. Look around.
And that's interesting. And so then when you talk about relationships in the masculine and the feminine, can you dive into what do you mean by the masculine? What do you mean by the feminine? And how can a person know, male or female, if they're swaying to one versus the other?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a big question. So I'll try to be quick, because I don't want your listeners to go, this guy's a pig. You know what I mean? No, I don't want that, because if we go back to stereotypes, people get really triggered because they're trying to get rid of all stereotypes. Well, again, nature calls for what nature calls. So you could go against nature all day long. There's a price to pay for this. This is part of what I'm talking about. So to be masculine in our bodies, right, as males, is to be a cause of something in the world. Now, we raise women that way nowadays as well. I get that, and it's okay to a point. That's my whole thing, the sweet spot. First of all, we both are masculine and feminine in our bodies in the first place.
Okay.
We both have both. We're androgynous in the beginning, straight up. However, a healthy woman will live typically more in her feminine side, at 70 to 80% of the time. A healthy, normal woman, so she wants to be lovely, she wants to connect, she wants to be pleasing and pleasant to everybody around her, she wants to be of service, they love community, they love helping people, right? That's the feminine. They're very, very, I call it externally motivated. So everything outside of you, has an effect on you, and you're aware of everything and everyone and the energy in the space and the children and the dogs and the sick person. And like that's a gatherer brain, by the way. That's a gatherer brain. This is millennia of training and evolution. Your eyes are designed different than our eyes. Your eyes could take on an entire picture walking the space in 2 seconds. We don't do that. We can only see one thing at a time. Single focus, hunter brain, right? So we have both, but if your consciousness is in a female body, you're awareness, your way of operating is open and aware of everything outside of you for your safety, for their safety, for their well-being. You're aware. Just you see what I'm saying? You, as a woman, you know, right? You know this,
Yeah.
but men don't know this because we're not like that at all. So to be feminine in the feminine body has this whole paradigm of the way you operate. To be loving and pleasant, and to be aware of everything and everyone, and to be concerned with everything and everyone, especially if it's alive. My wife comes home, we have a bunch of pets, and before the purse goes down or the keys go on the table, she has to check on every single pet to make sure they're still alive and well. We have 3 cats, a dog, and a bunny.
Oh, how
You with me?
fun.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Yeah, but my point is like everything alive, she's been out for 3-4 hours. She has to make sure they're all okay.
Yeah.
I get that, right? So that's the feminine. You know, to be nurturing and loving and caring and aware and doing her nurturing, loving part, right? Make sure everyone's all the time. Men don't do this. So that's the masculine is more about internally motivated. This is a big piece of, it's a big part of how people like don't understand each other, men, women. She's always aware of everything and him, and he's never aware of anything but what's going on inside of him. So she's externally motivated, he's internally motivated. What that means is for natural masculine males, boys aren't like that. So I'm saying natural masculine male, they're driven by what needs to be done out there for their career, for their lives, for themselves, for their family, for their life. So they're driven, they're internally motivated. What do I need to do today to succeed? What I need to do to keep us alive? What do I need to do today? So what it looks like to a woman next to you as a man is she's looking at him going, are you okay? Is he good? Are you happy? Am I fine? You know, is he hungry? Is he thirsty? Right? Like that whole awareness of making sure he's okay, because if he's okay, she's okay. And he seems to not even be present and noticing that she's in the space, because literally his radar is turned in and he's always up in his head thinking about what needs to be done now, close future, bigger future, right? So to be masculine is to conquer, compete, fight, push, penetrate, push through your fears, your self-doubt, your I don't know if I could do this, but I'm gonna push for it. So it's a competing and fighting all the time in the world. Women don't want to compete and fight in the world instinctively. They want to nurture. They want to connect the dots. So those are, we have both, but back to nature. That's all I'm teaching again. It's nature and science. Back to nature. If you have a masculine body, you have a better quality of life when you step with that nature. And we need women to bring us in the sweet spot to be sensitive and aware, and to them, to the world, right? If you leave men be, they're beasts, right? And for us, the women, you're smaller and weaker in statute. So as a rule, you're aware of your safety all the time. Well, that's when men come in. Men are here to keep you safe because we're bigger and stronger, and also emotionally, right? So that's the beautiful dynamic. It's fantastic. There's no equality there. We're so different, but we're made to fit together. So I always say, just last thing, because it's too crass and it's my favorite line. We talk about equality. I go, well, we're as equal as our genitals.
That's a good point.
Right. But I mean,
Really
see, completely opposite, but made to fit. Everything in temperament, everything about us is that way. We're made to come together to be more balanced all around.
So, okay. So I have a question kind of following up on that is, ever since we were little, you're given instruction to achieve, whether you're male or female.
Absolutely. That's on a culture. That's the culture stuff.
That's our culture. Right. And so as you grow up and you go through school, maybe you go to college, you get a job.
Beautiful.
And as a woman, you still need to take care of yourself. And so that would seem that in order to make your stand in the world, that you have a little bit more of the masculine traits.
Absolutely.
So then how does a woman resolve the fact that you have to be almost on the masculine in order to survive in the world, put a roof over your head, have enough food, be able to do the activities you want to do, learn, grow. But then at the same time, if you need to be feminine to attract a partner, a male partner, how in the world do you resolve that? I mean, 'cause that's like it's like almost like you have to flip a light switch and it's like, okay, boom, now I'm someone else. But how do you like ease into it or switch or resolve that?
That's the work that I do with all my clients, by the way. Women come to me, the ladies come to me because they They're strong, independent, and powerful. They have careers, they have jobs, they have cars, they have their own place, the blah, 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 blah. Nobody wants to date me. I'm 35 years old. I'm pretty. I'm no trouble. I have everything. How come nobody wants to date me? I go, honey, you're too masculine. It's not your fault, right? Because that requires, anytime you're working and producing results, man or woman, you're in your masculine. We all have both. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The problem is typically when we grind into you that from 5 years old on, from kindergarten forward, that what are you gonna do when you grow up? We used to ask boys that, right? Now we ask women that, like, what are you gonna contribute? What are you gonna fight for? What are you gonna bring to society? That's fine, but not every girl wants that. So even though that's the tidal wave that's difficult to resist, right? Your mother will train you to, be strong, independent, and powerful because you don't want to be stuck with a douchebag like she was. Do you know what I mean? Your father will teach you to be strong, independent, and powerful if you have a daddy. Most 70%, whatever. The numbers are terrible. I'm not going to go here. But right, sometimes a father, if he's present, will teach his daughter to be strong, independent, and powerful, and then make something of herself in the world, because she won't get stuck with a douchebag like he was when he was young. There's a lot of that, right? So the training of that comes first, and then later on, when you get yourself in a secure, safe space, financially, that you're not depending on anybody, then you can go get a relationship. Doesn't work. So like, my job is to think because basically what happened is you're kind of like this way, right? Too much masculine training, zero feminine training. And what masculine men want is feminine women, not masculine women. That boys want your femininity to disappear. Boys want you to man up. Boys want you to have the second raise. Boys want to make money while they're sitting on the couch spooning the dog, right? So if you want a man to show up in your life, if you want to feel safe with a man and have him take on the responsibility that men do to take care of women, you can't be new masculine, because I'm going to say this. Are you ready? This is not cute. This just is. I'm sorry. I love you all. Right? That masculine women are irritating the masculine men. They spot you in 3 seconds. When you think you're in charge and you're all that, which is fine, right? The masculine men will not see you. They'll avoid you. They won't say hello. They just swing by you. And to the ones who don't have necessarily the consciousness, you basically are, when you're in your masculine, you're invisible to masculine men. There it is. You're completely invisible. So the sweet spot, again, is you can be masculine at work. How do you cultivate this? What do my clients? How do you cultivate your feminine? Then also you become not only visible to men, but you go back into your essence in your body and show up with warmth and radiance that attract masculine men. Right? So to be masculine is to be in your head. Get this, it's very simple. To be masculine is to be in your head. That's why men are stuck all the time. To be feminine is to be in your body and your heart, to be present. So we need you ladies to get us out of our heads. And the only way to get us out of our heads is for us to enjoy your company, is to get us out of our heads, which means you have to be feminine. It takes practice when you've been practiced out of this since you were 5 years old. That's what I'm saying. But it's in there, right? It's in you. So we just have to cultivate it back out, and then you have all the goodies, because you can work and you can have the relationship. Woo.
So, and when you're coaching women on this, are you working on how they speak, how they dress, how they behave, all of the above?
All of it. All of it.
Okay.
It's because it's ultimately, ladies, it's not about your face. It's not about your hair. It's not about the size of your bodies. You're blonde or brunette or, size 6 or size 19. It doesn't, it's not that. It's your energy. It's your energy. The same way when you see masculine men, you go, ooh, right? When you're feminine, you radiate, and literally like moths to a flame, everybody, men, show up. Now, your job at that point is to sort, because, men have to pick you first, but then you decide who you go with.
Okay.
I want to say it again. Men pick you first. Hey, girl. Hey, you haven't seen you before. Right? When you radiate, you're going to get attention. If you have your face on your phone, you're not. You're sending a message there as well, right? So when you radiate, men show up. And what I teach you, boys, guys, and men, you know what to avoid, you know what not to go with, you know exactly how to behave with that, you know how to date, you know when to cross the line into intimacy. Like, all the goodies and against nature, stuff that I teach, but that's the pull. Oof.
So with this and society now having dating apps,
Yeah.
do you encourage people to be on them, not be
No.
on them?
Uh,
Yeah.
uh.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
because I'm going to say this is again, it's another, that's my life, that's my work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
Mhm.
Big
Ready.
statement. Men do not do apps.
Okay.
Boys do apps.
Mhm.
So women will be on apps 3, 4. This is my clients, right? The
Yeah.
first thing I tell them, get off the apps. You're spending $150 a month on like 5
Yeah.
different apps, you know, getting absolutely no results, nothing but hey and a wink and a, you know, and a one-liner, you know,
Mhm.
2 months of like 3-letter, you know, 3-word texting.
Yeah.
Nobody ever pulls the trigger because boys don't pull the trigger. They want you to chase them. So
Yeah.
women are more devastated and feeling more abandoned in my world after spending weeks and months on an app that goes nowhere, and they feel more rejected than everything.
Yeah.
There's millions of men out there and they all
Mhm.
reject you. I mean, it's the worst thing in the world.
Yeah.
And I want to say this is not how men find women. Real men don't do apps. So stop it.
Okay.
And you know where women go? Real
Mhm.
men shop locally. They don't
Mhm.
want somebody in San Francisco.
Yeah.
That's a female fantasy, by the way, right? Like, well, what if I meet a guy in Paris? You know, ooh, the teenage fantasy, right? What if
Mhm.
he's like from Spain? I get to live
Mhm.
in Barcelona, maybe. Like, stop it, ladies. That's not
Mhm.
what men do. You'll
Yeah.
talk to somebody about Barcelona, but you'll never come here. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
the story I could tell you would blow your mind. It's seriously always the same, right? So
Mhm.
what real men do is they at the store, at the car wash, at the gas station, if wherever they're standing, they're looking. That's the
Yeah.
masculine. The masculine is always scanning the environment for danger and safety first really
Mhm.
quickly, but the next thing it scans for is the feminine form in the world.
Mhm.
Constantly. Boys are on their phone, by the way. Men
Yeah.
are watching. So
Yeah.
all you have to do is look up
Uh-huh.
and catch their eyes and smile,
Mhm.
and a man may actually come over and say hi.
Okay.
They don't do apps. I'm sorry. I know it's very
Mhm.
popular. It sounds
Yeah, it
insane,
is.
but they don't. They want somebody local, like a few
Mhm.
mile radius from where they live, not a different state, not a different
Yeah.
country, not even like 2 hours away. How do you date somebody 2 hours away, right? They won't
You
do it.
can't. Yeah.
So that men are where? Men are everywhere around you. Look up. Oof, I just went off, didn't I? I'm sorry.
No, this is good.
But it's
This is good.
factual. It's
Yeah.
factual. I'm just telling you, it's reality, right? It's
Yeah.
not, it sounds weird and limited. It's not.
Yeah. And there's more I want to dive into and talk to you about, but we'll probably bring you on for another episode.
Yeah.
But I know you have events
Yes.
and you do coaching. Can you touch base on that a little bit so people know
Yes.
how to get a hold of you?
Yeah. I have, I have a gift for your listeners if you want even.
Sure.
So
Absolutely.
uh first of all, let me say this. Like, my business is not about my business as much as I have a mission. I have a calling.
Mhm.
I have a God calling. For me, God is always there. Like when I think
Mhm.
of God, my eyes go right there. Hey,
Yeah.
hey. And I get a lot of downloads from whatever.
Mhm.
But the calling that I used to resent, and now I've made peace with it and go with it. I have a calling that is somehow at some level with other masters I'm sure that I'm going to meet, my job to be part of a cultural shift in the belief of equality, you know, masculine and
Mhm.
feminine, and go back to the things that work. Now, I'm
Mhm.
not talking about going back to the 50s. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
People always accuse me of this. So you want us to like dumb it down and wiggle our asses like Marilyn Monroe?
Mhm.
I'm like, that's not at all what I'm talking about. So stop putting words in my mouth. That's not. There's a
Mhm.
modern way to do relationships
Mhm.
that work in the
Mhm.
modern world, but it still has a classic frame that are flexible. That's
Yeah.
all I'm saying, right? So with that, my calling is to bring that to the culture. It has to be, and my the calling is Oprah Big, which means
Mhm.
national movement. It's easy to teach. Everybody, even feminists, connect with it. They go, oh wow, I never thought of it that way. I'm like, there you go, right?
Yeah.
Like this is again because I teach nature. That's why it resonates. Anyway, so my gift to your listeners is if
Mhm.
anybody resonates with me
Mhm.
and want to know more,
Mhm.
you can send them to, I'm sending them to
Okay.
www.andregroupcoaching.com.
Okay.
It's a landing page that I created that takes you to my calendar.
Okay.
And with whether you're a man or a woman, click on the VIP hour and I'll have a one-on-one call with you. If you're brave, it actually takes a lot of bravery because people get really nervous. Like I'm gonna read them. Right?
Yes.
But it's really an exploratory about, what's not working, where you at now, and what's the dream.
Yeah.
And my favorite thing to do is, and this is where I get everybody off the hook, right? Feminine men are not feminine because their childhood was good. Something went awry and there's a trauma injury on them that kept them from stepping into being masculine appropriately. A lot of masculine women have the same paradigm. So all of us, none of us get out of childhood unscathed. None of us. It's between the age of 5 and 11, the formative year especially, sometimes before, sometimes after. But in that, we get our butts kicked by life, and we end up making decisions about life, ourselves, people, the world, and those become subconscious belief. I can't trust anybody. Life is a terrible thing. People are nasty. I'm not good enough. I'll never succeed. Like you name it. We have like 7,500 versions of this in our heads. We forget we made those decisions. That becomes our drivers, and then you end up stuck in a loop. If men are dangerous because your daddy was dangerous, you think that's men, and then you attract these men, and you plan. So when you find yourself stuck in a loop, it's not you anymore. You're not making choices. You're on cruise control. Yeah. So in that call, seriously, in 15 minutes, I'm really good at this. In 15 minutes, we actually go right to the source, and then you get to realize, oh my God, there's nothing wrong with me. It's just my circumstances. That's liberating. Yes. Because my ladies come to me with this: what is wrong with me? This I must be broken. I'm obviously broken. No. Peel back. You're okay. You're normal. This is what happens when this happens. Now, from there, like I said, from this moment, what's the dream? What's the future? And see if I can help you towards it. So I have workshops. I have one-on-one programs. I have 5 different ways to work with me: small, medium, large, big, whatever. Yeah. I do events every 3 months live that are super cheap. I have a private group coaching that's free on Facebook called Dating and Relationship Insights. So I'll send you a link I'll send you an email with all the links at the bottom if you want to post them.
I would like that.
And again, and my email, my website is projectequinox.net. Okay. And you could connected to YouTube, so you can see me speak all over the place, podcasts, whatever. So you can spend the afternoon on the website. And if you want to talk to me directly, seriously, www.andregroupcoaching to set an appointment. And you could email me, andrecoaching1@gmail. Okay. And pick my brain. Like again, if I'm going to change the world, come at me.
Sounds great.
Please.
Yes. And I appreciate that. Well, I thank you so much for stepping in today, helping me out, and sharing so much. There's a lot of valuable information in what you have to say, and I hope people take advantage of reaching out to you.
Yeah, I hope so. And I want to say thank you, because every time I speak publicly, it's a wave in the movement that I want to create to basically give people hope. Ladies, there's hope. Right? There are good men out there everywhere, and they're also wondering where the women are. Right? The culture has messed all that up for us. There's a way to understand all this that is easy, a little tricky. There's a bit of layers, but it's not hard. You just need to learn, because nobody's giving the recipe. The recipe you're getting from culture is the recipe for loneliness. Yeah. So there's a way. That's all I'm saying.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you all for joining us today. We will see you again next weekend. Have a great rest of your day. Bye now.